All right, thank you for tuning in to Chompin at the Bit. This is episode 23. We're taking a look at the NFL Week 5 schedule. Previous episode, I already looked at the Thursday night game, but now we're going to take a look at the games that are coming up on Sunday, as well as Monday, possibly even Tuesday. So, like I do every week, going to take a look at some top stories in the NFL. Then I'm going to go into my top 5 matchups for the week. And then I'll give you my team that has the most to prove to me. Then, of course, I'll end the episode with my Week 5 picks, where I'm going to give you winners, and you do with that what you want. And then, of course, we'll preview upcoming episodes at the end as well. But to start off with, so Week 5 is being affected by the COVID-19 pandemic yet again, as the Patriots-Broncos matchup, which was supposed to be today, has now been pushed to Monday as of now. But there was breaking news this morning about the Patriots having another positive test. So I think as of right now, the game is still going to be played Monday, but there are some reports that the game may actually be pushed to next Sunday, which would have been the Patriots' bye week. But I mean, if they don't play this week, this will just serve as their bye week. I'm guessing the Broncos had their bye week next week as well. So I guess I have to stay tuned to that story. We'll probably know for sure by the end of the day. But then it brings up another point, because the Chiefs-Bills game, which is supposed to be Thursday, may get pushed to Sunday, because Bills and Titans is going to try to play Tuesday. So Bills and Titans play on Tuesday, then you can't have the Bills play the Chiefs on Thursday. So it's actually going to affect Week 6's schedule as well, as we might not even have a Thursday night football game this week. But it does make you think, with, the pandemic and all that, how should the NFL, I guess, go forward with their schedule, knowing full well that you're probably going to have a weekly basis of teams coming up with positive tests. So you got to think about, what's the limit to actually have the game still be played? And then, is there a certain number set in mind that if you have this many number of players test positive, then we have to postpone the game? Does it come to a point where you maybe force teams to forfeit games? It's another question that's been thrown around, which is, I guess, an interesting one to talk about. So basically what's going on right now is, you get a positive test, the league shuts down your practice facility, and you go back to doing like virtual team meetings or whatever. Then once you show that, team-wise, that you can have negative tests for a couple of days, they'll let you reopen your facility. Of course, those who did test positives have to stay away for, I believe it's 10 days, something like that, or as long as they can get 2 negative tests 2 consecutive days, then they should be ready to go back to practice. But yeah, so then once your facility is open, then the league looks at, depending on what day in the week your facility is open, whether your team can play the game Sunday or Monday. So I think the way that the NFL is going about it, it's probably the best that they could do right now under the certain circumstances, because I think they want to avoid what happened to the Patriots last week against the Chiefs, where they had the Cam Newton positive test, and then they weren't able to practice or anything, and it was a road game, so they had to travel to Kansas City, but they weren't allowed to travel until the team could show that they had negative tests as well. And it turned into them traveling on Monday morning to play the game Monday night. And most NFL players will tell you that that's not fair to them at all. So it's, led to a lot of frustration around the league between, coaches and players about how the league is handling it. So as long as the league can avoid another instance like that, they'll be fine. But I would say going about it the way that they are now, where you have maybe 2 Monday night games, a game on Tuesday possibly, I think that's the best you can hope for, because the added part to it is if teams don't play games, then players don't necessarily get paid for those games. So it's actually in the best interest of the league and teams that all 16 games get played. But I'm sure the league's going to try to do them in the 17-week schedule that they have. I just think the league has to be more flexible to probably adding an 18th week, maybe a 19th week, to allow, teams that have games that get postponed some time built into the schedule to allow those to be moved around. Because let's say, worst case scenario is you come to a week where 4 or 5 games get affected. How do you work all that into the schedule? Because depending on what the matchups were, their bye weeks may not line up perfectly. So then you could just, play them on a bye week or something like that. And I know that they want to, try to stick to their regular schedule with the Super Bowl, Pro Bowl, and all that. They don't want to push those back too far, but I kind of think there's going to have to be fluid through all this. So I guess that's going to be the theme for this season, at least. Who knows going forward? The league and the players are going to have to be as fluid as they can be. But there is a, caveat to all that, because if you paid attention to the Titans situation, that was one where it was kind of, reckless behavior by a couple of players led to it spreading completely through the team, which then affected their game against the Steelers and then the Bills, which ended up being pushed until, finally getting played on Tuesday, as long as the Titans don't have any new positive tests between now and then. But I think in an instance where a team just shows reckless behavior, which led to them spreading it around their locker room, I kind of wonder if teams like that should be given the pass of just having a postponed game. I think if it does, because the league also reviews each team's situation when they have positive tests to make sure that the players and staff were abiding by their safety protocols, meaning walking around the facility with a mask on and all that, not performing wild parties and all that where people are just out there maskless and around other people. So if you're a team that shows you're doing everything you can, and since they're not in a bubble, players are allowed to go home if they go out shopping or something, come back with it, that's kind of out of their hands. Those I could see postponing games, because that's fair enough. That's the same issues most of us are going through right now. But if it's something like supposedly with Tennessee, where they held unsanctioned practices, which supposedly, expose players to the virus, then that's on the team itself. So I think the team being penalized in L by forfeiting the game makes some sense, but then you have to think about it on the other hand, where I've heard that if they did do a forfeit, then the other team wouldn't get game checks as well. So I think that's probably going to be the reason why the league wouldn't want to do that, unless they can negotiate something in the middle of the season to allow that. But it's an interesting thing that's going to be a story going forward all season, and there's kind of no way around it. You just got to, for the teams and the players out there, you're just going to have to play with the hand you're dealt. I know this past week, Jason McCourty in an interview said that the league, the Players Association, don't care about them. They just care about games. And for the most part, I can probably say I don't disagree with him. But I also think for the time that we're in, it's probably just going to come across that way, because, the players are being run by the teams. The teams are, run by the commissioner. And then the commissioner, his hands are tied to the networks, which is where all the money comes from. So, of course, the commissioner's going to try to do, and the league office is going to try to do everything they can to get as many games in as they possibly can. So maybe that's the actual resolution to all this, is maybe you scrap 16 games, because if it becomes too difficult to work it out, it's going to be tough. Maybe it becomes a 14 game schedule or something. But we'll see. So far, it hasn't been too disastrous outside of the, Patriot flying in, playing the same day. So if it turns into, every week from here on out, there's a second Monday night game with a possible Tuesday night game to go along with Thursday and Sunday, at least until later in the year where Saturday games come into play, I just feel like it's just going to have to be the norm for this year. So with that, that's enough of the off the field, outside influences that are going on. Let's take a look at on the field with the matchups for Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday. So I was looking through the schedule, as I do every week, and there were 5 matchups that I saw on the schedule that did intrigue me a little bit. So these are the ones that I'm going to be trying to watch as much as I can. First matchup is the Bengals versus the Ravens. I know you're thinking Bengals aren't that good. What's so intriguing about the matchup? For me, it's looking at the rookie Joe Burrow, who I gotta say, for the most part, through the first 4 games, I would say he's been pretty much a success for the Bengals right now. He's had some games where he's thrown for over 300 yards through the air. He's shown the ability to, scramble around, make some plays with his feet. Sure, he's made some mistakes, but every rookie's going to do that. So I just want to see how he does against that Ravens defense. It's going to be a tough division game against a tough defense. Ravens have questions about Lamar Jackson. He was dealing with an illness and I think a little bit of a knee injury this past week. So I do want to see if he's limited in any way, and can the Bengals, come up with a game plan to slow him down. Kind of see how well he actually is feeling, but don't let him run wild as well. Force him to make plays with his arm and beat you that way. So that's the first matchup that caught my eye. Second one is the Colts traveling to Cleveland to play the Browns. And this is an interesting matchup of a Browns team that, showed offensively. They put up great numbers last week against the Cowboys, both running the ball and a little bit through the air with some trick plays mixed in. And the Colts coming in with the top-ranked defense in the league. So I just want to see, can that Colts defense slow down this Cleveland Browns offense that, based off of last week, maybe finally realizing their potential. And I'd be shocked if the Browns were able to put up, crazy numbers against the Colts defense, but it's definitely a measuring stick game for Cleveland, that if they can show great offensive production against a great team, then that will do wonders for their mentality and thinking that they're an actual playoff team. Plus with the Colts, offensively they've been struggling as well. So I do want to see if, Phillip Rivers and some of those guys can finally get on the same page, especially T.Y. Hilton, as for the first quarter of the season, through the first 4 games, T.Y. Hilton's been kind of a non-factor. And for a guy who's been known as a top receiver past few years, interested to see if he and Rivers can finally get that connection going. Because I think that's going to be a big part if the Colts want to do anything in this season in terms of challenging or making an AFC title game, much less challenging for a Super Bowl, which is the reason why they brought in Rivers anyway. So, third game is Broncos Patriots. once again, depending if it does get played this week, they are planning to play Monday at 5 o'clock. But there was some news about Patriots having a positive test this morning. So I think they still want to play it on Monday, but I don't know, it's kind of up in the air right now. So I just looked at it, and supposedly the game has been moved to next Sunday. So it looks like they're not even playing Monday anymore, which then throws off the Broncos schedule, because the Broncos are supposed to play Miami next Sunday. So now that game has to be rescheduled. So like I said, these teams are going to have to be fluid with their situation. So now Broncos and Patriots get a bye week this week, it looks like. And yeah. So I guess I can take that matchup off the schedule. But just to play the game, I was interested to see who was going to start at quarterback for New England, because it seemed unlikely that Cam Newton would play today, as he got the positive test last Friday. So technically, if he stuck by the 10-day, quarantine session, he wouldn't have been able to play. So now with the game next Sunday, that takes that out of the question. Cam Newton's definitely going to be the starter. So I guess we'll save that one for next week's preview. But the next game I was looking at was the Chargers at the Saints. Because I gotta say, I've seen a few Charger games this year already, and I've been impressed by Herbert. I said, I think last week's preview show, that Herbert and Burrow have been pretty good for rookies so far, and Herbert has shown the ability to throw the ball downfield. He's shown mobility as well, and he's actually shown that he's pretty tough, because he's taken some big hits running along the sideline when he does scramble, and he's bounced right up, no ill effects or anything. Although I will say that he's probably gonna have to start getting out of bounds a little bit, because you don't want to take too many big hits from linebackers and safeties flying up at you, because you won't last that long in this league. But I guess, and then even on the other side of the ball, you have the Saints, where Drew Brees still hasn't really shown me that much this year. And each week we get into the season, more and more questions are going to come up about his age, whether this is actually going to be his final year, because I don't think he's made that completely known and made it concrete yet. I think he's leaving it open to come back another year. So he's definitely at the point where it's a year-by-year basis. And there are networks that are already knocking down his door that when he does stop playing, they want him to be like a TV analyst or something. So I would say so far, it's looking like Breeze, this would probably have to be it for him. But I would be interested, because the Chargers defense is probably better than most people were expecting. I mean, their defense has been good past few years, but I mean, they've looked really good this year, especially that game against the Chiefs, where Herbert almost had a good chance of beating the Chiefs in that game. So interested to see that one. And then the last matchup, Bills-Titans, once again, if that gets played on Tuesday or not, never know. And I just want to know, what's Tennessee going to look like? Because Tennessee hasn't really played in 2 weeks. They only recently, the past couple of days, got a chance to practice again. So will they be rusty coming back from that layoff? And even with the Bills have been sitting around waiting for this game as well. And, will there be any rust there as well? So I kind of just want to see, will both teams be as crisp as they've been the first few weeks of the season? So there you are. Those are my matchups. It was supposed to be 5. It was only 4, as Broncos and Patriots have been moved to until next week. So, but you know what? I think I'll pick another matchup for you. Let me see, because there should be other good ones out there. I'll say Dolphins 49ers. Garoppolo is supposed to be back this week. I want to see if there's any rust on his body from he's missed the past 2 games with the ankle injury, because I think they said he had a high ankle sprain, so that may be something where he's probably not 100% yet, but he's good enough to play so far. And if he can turn around the past couple of weeks, the 49ers offense has been a little shaky. So can he get those guys back on track and get that team looking like what teams are expecting? You know, a team that's going to contend in that division, get back in the playoffs. If they could get some of those guys back on defense, become a threat again this year to make a Super Bowl run. For the Dolphins, I think the clock is running for, Tua Tagovailoa to finally get his start in the NFL. Because we've seen this story with Fitzpatrick. He's good for little stretches, and then you kind of got to get him out of there. So I definitely want to see Tua at some point this year. I saw him a lot in Alabama. I think he may continue the trend between Burrow and Herbert as young guys who are coming in and performing at a high level for a rookie. Let him, get his maturation process started, especially on a team that isn't good this year. They're still building towards, a bright future, because Flores has that team playing hard. They just are lacking talent still. So if they can continue making good draft picks, the Dolphins will be fine in probably a year or 2. But I'd rather see them throw Tua out there this year than to get all the other pieces going, and then you have Tua out there and he goes through all his rookie mistakes, and maybe you don't perform as well as you're supposed to next year, and then you kind of delay the clock an extra year. So I'm still expecting Tua at some point this year. Hopefully it's sooner rather than later. Okay, so those are my top 5 matchups. Now, the team I think has the most to prove this week, and there's always several teams out there. Could have picked the Texans. They just made a coaching change, so there's a lot of pressure on them to perform well this week to show that, Bill O'Brien was the guy holding them back. They have Romeo Crennel, who's the interim coach. He's more of a defensive guy, but I know I think Bill O'Brien was pretty much running the offense down there, as O'Brien was an offensive mind. So now, with Crennel running the team, I'm sure he's going to let the offensive coordinator call the plays. So I'm interested to see if they perform much better now with Bill O'Brien out of the picture. Could have gone with the Falcons. Falcons have a winnable game this week. Can they finally put it together and play a complete game, not three and a half quarters worth? But the team that I feel has even more to prove than that, Dallas Cowboys. I mean, the Cowboys coming in, have all the talent in the world on offense, which what good is that if you can't win games? The defense, I was told, was an improving defense. Clearly haven't shown any of that. So now that you look at it, what are the Cowboys at some point have to turn it on, and luckily the rest of the division is trash, so they're able to go through this weak stretch that they're playing right now and not fall completely out of the playoff race. I think they're only a half game out, because the Eagles are winning that division 1-2-1, and they're only winning because of the one tie they had against the Bengals. But I went on that rant previous episode about how the NFC East is the most overrated division in football, and They have been for years now. So if the Cowboys can come out, they're playing the Giants, which I swear if they struggle against the Giants this week, I really hope I start hearing all the overrated talk for these Cowboys, because people are still holding out hope that they'll turn it around, get it going, and at some point pull away in the division. But if they struggle against the Giants, I'm making you a promise now. When I do, I guess, my Week 6 preview, I will rip the Cowboys to shreds. I mean, I'm already ready to do it now, but I want to see how they do against the Giants. Also, if they blow out the Giants, it's not going to really change much to me, but I do want to see the team live up to all this hype that they've had for the past 2-3 years. Like, you keep hearing the stories about Dak Prescott. He deserves the new contract. He hasn't played up to snuff for that yet. You keep hearing how Ezekiel Elliott's a top running back in the league. He hasn't been playing well. And just go on down the line. Amari Cooper, top wide receiver in the league. I don't think so, but that's what people think. So, the defense is supposed to be, pretty fast and blah, blah, blah. They have this great defensive coordinator, blah, blah, blah. What have they done? Nothing. So, Dallas Cowboys, prove it to me. All right, so now we're at the part of the episode where we're going to go ahead and look at my Week 5 picks. So, of course, I had to be fluid with my picks as well, because I had the Patriots and Broncos on my list, but that one's got to be taken off as they're not playing this week. So I did put in a substitute, so I will have 6 picks this week as well. I already gave you my Thursday night pick. Once I do the results for all of them, we'll go over that one. So I did take the Bucks over the Bears. Second pick, I have the Cardinals going to the Jets. The Jets are a 6.5 point underdog at home. And I'm taking the Cardinals in that one. I'm expecting the Cardinals to win that game. Kind of in a bounce back, get it right against the Jets type of thing, where the Cardinals struggled last week, lost the surprising game to me against the Panthers. I think they get back on track. Kyler Murray has a good game, and they beat the Jets. I would not be surprised if the Cardinals won that by 2 touchdowns. So I'm taking the Cardinals in that one. Next matchup, it's the Battle of Pennsylvania between the Steelers and the Eagles. So the Steelers are a 6.5 point home favorite against the Eagles. And I'm taking the Steelers in that one easy. That could be another double-digit win. I would not be surprised if that's a 13, 14-point win by the Steelers. So give me the Steelers minus 6.5 over the Eagles. Next matchup, we have the Panthers traveling to Atlanta for the Falcons. Surprisingly, the Falcons are a 3.5 point favorite at home. I think Vegas and all of them are still kind of downplaying Carolina. The Panthers weren't expected to be anything decent this year. And so far they're 2-2, which even that's a shock. So I guess Vegas is still, going off of the prediction for the Falcons of being the Falcons are supposed to contend for somewhat of a playoff spot this year. And they have weapons on offense. Of course, Julio Jones is out again this week, but they still have other weapons. So I'm expecting the Falcons to look better this week, but I'm actually taking the Panthers in this one. Not to say the Falcons won't win, but I could see it being a field goal game. So 3.5 points, I'm taking the Panthers in that matchup. So Patriots Broncos, I said, skipping over that. That's for next week. So the next matchup is the Sunday night matchup, which is actually a pretty good game. Seahawks hosting the Vikings. Vikings have struggled so far this year, but got a much needed win last week against the Texans. So we're going to see if the Vikings can keep up that momentum and take it into Seattle, which is always a tough place to play against dangerous Russell Wilson, who, I mean, you guys have heard me talk about. I think if he's not the best quarterback in the league, arguably, he's definitely the second best behind Mahomes. Depending which way you want to put those two, I think Wilson's right up there. It's kind of a big number with the Seahawks being a 7.5 point favorite over the Vikings, but I'm a little iffy on this one. I'll take the Seahawks minus 7.5. I think the Seahawks could win that game by 10. Maybe 8. I could see like an 8-point game late. Vikings having the ball, needing to score and get a 2-point conversion, and Seattle stopping them, or Vikings just run out of time. But yeah, I'll take the Seahawks minus 7.5. Home favorite over the Vikings. And then last game I'll take is the Chargers over the Saints. I mean, the Saints are a 7.5 point favorite at home, but I'm starting to jump on the Justin Herbert bandwagon, and I think he and the Chargers will be able to keep that game much closer than what people might be expecting. So I'll take the Chargers over the Saints and the minus 7.5. So those are my picks, but I did just think of this with the Bills and Titans now playing on Tuesday. That's technically going to be a primetime game, but I don't know if that game's certain to play Tuesday yet, so I guess I can't really add that to the picks yet. So I was going to add it, but we'll just forget about it. I'll throw it in another episode if they do finally play on Tuesday. So I guess to recap my picks, Thursday night game, you already heard I did the Bucks over the Bears, but new picks are I'm taking the Cardinals over the Jets. Jets 6.5 point underdog. Taking the Steelers minus 6.5 over the Eagles. The Panthers over the Falcons. Falcons minus 3.5. Seahawks minus 7.5 over the Vikings, and then Chargers over the Saints minus 7.5. So, and then last week I went 4-2. Second week going 4-2. Overall, I'm 12-11 now. Made it over 500. I'm expecting another week of at least 4-2. And like I said, shooting for 60% by the end of the year. I think I might be on a little bit of a roll, so we'll see. Not to jinx it, but I'm sticking with those picks. Like I said, I'm giving you winners every week. You do with them what you want. After the first 2 weeks, I have been on a bit of a roll. 8-4 in my last 2 weeks, so there you have it. So, of course, looking ahead with my episodes, we have the NBA Finals Game 6 tonight. Next episode, I will definitely be reacting to that, letting you know. Well, at this point, it's going to be whether the Lakers win the title or not. If they win it, then there really won't be anything to preview anymore because the series will be over, but I will be reacting to what does the ring mean for LeBron, AD, Lakers as a whole. If the Heat are able to pull it out, then it'll become, can the Heat pull off the impossible, come back from 3-1 and win it all? Would the Heat be the most unlikely NBA champion ever? And will we be getting ready for a Game 7? Which Game 7s are always fun. They're even more fun in an NBA championship setting. So that's definitely what to look forward to next episode. So for those of you that are new, appreciate you tuning in. Hope you liked what you heard. Definitely like it. subscribe, follow, whatever platform you're listening on. Drop a comment. Let me know what topics you want me to talk about. Give me your opinion on any of the topics I mentioned. And then for those of you who've been with me through most of the 23 or even all 23 episodes so far, definitely appreciate you a lot. You know the deal. Hopefully you like, subscribe, or follow already. If not, I mean, come on now. But yeah, so thank you for tuning in. Be safe out there, and I'll definitely catch you next episode. All right.